You're on the road beyond. I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for joining us tonight. Ike McFadden, my co-host, joining me from the great state of Tennessee. Ike, good to see you again.
Good to see you as always. You're looking young and handsome as always. We should also introduce, we've got our producer with us.
Yeah.
Also young and handsome, possibly, Pete. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm doing great. How are you all doing tonight?
Well, we're doing good. Your photo, your avatar kind of scares us though, Pete. So we'll talk more about that later, because actually that avatar though is a face in Galveston that's etched on the side of a building, right?
It is correct, sir.
All right. So maybe Pete will enlighten us about that later. Ike, we're talking about paranormal things tonight, maybe communicating with the other side. If you could talk with a person that's passed, who would you talk to?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, my fascination with the Kennedy family, probably John F. Kennedy. I'd be curious to hear what he had to say.
Yeah. Okay. I'd have to go, historical figures. Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm just going to go far left field. I'm going to say Jim Morrison. I'd love to talk to Jim Morrison,
Does he have some kind of ghostly apparition associated with him, or that's just your Doors fandom? I'm
a huge Doors fan. I was since I was a kid, I always been fascinated with the Doors. I had his poetry book for a while, and all their albums. I wore a Jim Morrison shirt. It's just kind of was my thing. But I've grown, especially over the years, grown to appreciate him. But I'd have to say, yeah, if it's a historical figure we're going to go with, that's what I'm going to say, Jim Morrison. But we've got a guest on the show tonight. She's a medium and psychic. And she's going to be talking to us about communicating with the other side and how she ties it in with working with police agencies and things like that.
That's right. We've got Tuesday Miles. She's going to be with us. She's never been the average ordinary human. She started to see ghosts at the age of 2. That's unusually young. Human spirits, animal spirits, people who had died. And she had a tendency to know things before they happened: accidents, plane crashes, drowning, earthquakes, and we can only assume the stock market. Let's hear what she has to say tonight.
Tuesday is also a remote viewer, saying she was able to see places thousands of miles away. She's worked with clients all over the world, from aiding law enforcement to finding missing people. She's also worked on cases in which the client was being attacked by an unseen entity, finding solutions to eliminate that entity. We'll hear all about that. We also are going to be, she says that although she's retired, Tuesday says that being a psychic medium never stops. Please welcome to the show Tuesday Miles. Tuesday, join us from Long Beach, California. It's good to see you, Tuesday. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks. This is great. Thanks for having me.
Your first paranormal experience when you were 2. Let's talk about those first times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What exactly happened?
Watching these eyes come in my room and float above me or around me and blink. And so I'm watching these eyes. And of course, I'm so small, and I was out of the crib, so I wasn't in the crib, but I would get out of bed and go tell my parents that there was people in my room. And of course, they sent me back to my room saying, it's your imagination. And it wasn't my imagination. There was this did this nonstop till I was about 10. And then it kind of calmed down for a little while.
Do you see, you see movies where people are psychic, especially kids, and they show them growing up through the years, and then they're in like a theater, and then all of a sudden there's all these dead people standing around them looking at them. Is that the way it is, where you have people just coming up to you because they know that you're an empath or someone that can understand them?
They can see supposedly my energy that I think is my light that comes from the top of my head from miles and miles. I've seen them come from the sky, just flying down at me. And I kept thinking to myself, how do they know I'm right here? Oh, and why do they know I'm here, on it? But yeah, no, I get approached all the time. But, it takes practice too to block this kind of stuff. You don't want to leave yourself open constantly all the time for them to approach you. It takes a lot out of you that when they do that.
So Tuesday, I understand you also help other people of problems here. How do you go is it a natural transition to go from experiencing this kind of stuff to thinking, well, how can I use this in some fashion? Is that, I mean, obviously, I assume you don't go to college for that. How do you get into that?
Well, it took me a while to lose the fear from it, because it's scary. I mean, here it is that you want to be as normal as, you got a normal mom and dad, normal sister, you got a normal family, and except there's something that's not normal about yourself. You're seeing people that are dead. You see people that are, or that don't look like people. And it's everywhere you go, you're seeing them. And to be able to fit in and have that normal life, you have to learn how to be disciplined about it, how to learn to control it, protect yourself with this. So it's not on 24/7. I can shut myself off except for my sight. I've got exceptional sight. My sight stays on, but I've learned how to ignore it in a way that I can still enjoy myself and what I'm doing, but knowing that they're actually right there in front of me. But they'll show me as clear as if they were living, sometimes not even understanding that they're actually dead until I get a little closer and I can feel their energy, that they're not actually a person that's alive that's in front of me, that they are actually dead.
Do you see them as energy or as spirits? And when a spirit presents itself, does it present itself in a younger form? Do you see them, in the movies, sometimes you see people in a dead state where they look like a zombie or something, or how do they present themselves to you?
That's a good question. I see the energy of them first. A lot of times the energy would come in like a gas haze, like heat rising off a hot pavement. It's like a little bit of waviness to it. It takes them a little bit for them just to kind of go, it's like their energy will fade in, it will fade out until they get enough energy themselves where I can meet them where they're at. It's all about my level, my vibration level is resonating with their vibration level. When we come together and meet in that aspect of it, then I get a clear sight of them on it. But it does take practice doing that. Then I can go in and they'll start showing me their eyes, face features. Sometimes I get smell with them on it. And a lot of times they'll start showing me almost like a motion picture of what their life was. So that way, the message that it's for the person, if that's not for me, it's for somebody else, I can describe to them what they're showing me. And that way it's up to, I want you to be able to validate. They need to give me enough information so you can validate, yes, that is that person that I do know who it is. It's hit and miss, but I had Charlie Chaplin approach me one time in one of his theaters he built, and John Denver also. So that was pretty crazy on that one. But Charlie Chaplin was really fun. Did they
want to get something across to you, or what were they just wanting to say hi, or did they want to convey something?
John Denver, the reason why he showed up was because a woman he dated a long time ago had died, and her 3 daughters was trying to connect with her. And so they went to go see another psychic medium, but they didn't pick them in the audience. And a neighbor of mine happened to know me and knew them and said, hey, I have a lady that might be able to help you. He was here for a week singing me Country Roads, Take Me Home. Like, please shut up. And I had no idea really why, except that he did describe about his plane crash and what happened. Until I went over to meet with these 3 ladies, and the minute they opened the door, he started singing again. And I says, what does West Virginia have to do with your mom? And they all 3 yelled, they said, that's where she's from. And I says, what does John Denver have to do with your mom? And they said, she dated him.
Wow.
So things like that, things will play off. They'll set me up. They'll actually set me up to where I'm not sure that who the message is going to be for, but it will come. I'll find the person or the person will find me who it's for.
So I understand you've actually worked with, is it law enforcement agencies trying to find missing people? We've all seen movies about this stuff. Yeah. Can you describe maybe the reality of how does that stuff work? How do you get pulled into the case, and what do you do?
I have a friend that's in law enforcement and knows about my gifts, supported me about my gifts. I've proven to him over and over again about my gifts, and asked me one time if I would be up to helping on a case, if I was able to, what I could offer on the case. I do remote viewing. But I do know that it was this young man who was up by the Twin Lakes of the High Sierras. He went hiking and he logged his name down as going where he was at, but he never came back. And they started searching. Well, I knew he had passed. I knew he was dead. I could see him actually on it. He approached me. I knew he was dead. So I said, the only way I can help you is if I go with you So I traveled to where the lakes were, and I actually went on a 4.5-hour hike.
Wow.
And he was in front of me. He kept pointing the way that he was. So I just said, we need to follow him. He's showing me the way where he's at, to where we got to these big rocks. And he stops and he points down. And I thought, oh, dear God, you know what? So I start to walk over there, and one of the agents that was with me said, no, let me look. And he peeked around the corner. And what it was is that you had to jump from one rock to the other. He must have slipped, and he lodged himself in there to where his arms were lodged down, and he couldn't get out.
Wow.
And that's where he died. And so, I'm just going, I can see him. I'm just following him. I knew he was dead, but they were able to recover his body on it. And that's the sad things about it, though. This is with the families. I don't take any credit. I don't want my name being used to these families. I don't want to be involved in any of that aspect of it. I'm just there to see what I can do with my gifts, see if I can help in some way or another. And I've been so far successful at doing it. But it's sad. It is sad on it. Sometimes I don't have to go on location. I can just do it from home, where I'm actually seeing where they're at.
I was going to ask, do you ever have spirits come to you and say, look, I died in this way, where they maybe want vengeance or want somebody to be, if they've been murdered and they want somebody to be charged or something like that? Have you had spirits come to you with those type of requests?
They don't come with me, those requests. Once that we kind of leave here, we leave all that negativity behind us, whatever that tragedy was, whatever happened. They can show me bits and pieces of it. Sometimes if they was someone who was in a fire, I'll get a smell from them. Yeah. Or I can feel how they tragically died, their heads hit, whatever it is. And I can feel that. But they don't come to me and ask me to help them to get back in revenge or anything. We just don't take that negativity with us anymore. It just doesn't serve us any purpose.
So can you tell, for people who don't know about remote viewing, and I'm probably one of them, I believe there was originally, the Monroe Institute started this stuff, and there was this whole technical remote viewing thing, which I read about, and it seemed like, a fairly studious, complex way of going about it. Can you tell us, do you do that? Do you subscribe to a certain school? How exactly, for someone who doesn't know about this, how does that work?
Actually, no, and I keep it very hidden for reasons on the government. The government does have a department that has specifically for remote viewing. They have big, huge files on it. And I myself would never want to work for them in doing this. And they do recruit people to this day. They still recruit people to do remote viewing for them. Not necessarily asking them to do it, being told for them to do it.
What do you know why? What are they using it for?
Well, because some remote viewers are so precise on their viewing that they can actually go into our enemy lines and sit on enemy lines discussions and meetings, see forms, files. They're that good with remote viewing. And so our government does absolutely use remote viewers.
There's a name that came up, I know, in several radio broadcasts. I believe it was Major Ed Dames. Are you familiar with his work? Is he part of this type of organization?
He was. He was absolutely. He was a very good remote viewer. Actually, he was very, very good and was used quite often. There was some stuff in Russia that he did at one time, stuff on it. But again, nobody specifies what the information was. But I do know that there is a big, huge file that is on remote viewing. They have a department specifically for remote viewers.
And they do from what I hear, and you mentioned this, they do some incredible work, and they can be pretty specific and very accurate with what they're with what they're viewing. And then I'm just going to throw this out there. Can anyone be trained to do this, or do they have to have your gift? Is it something that someone can learn to do?
I don't know how somebody could really. I taught myself how to do it by having a neighbor when she left to write down every single turn that she went in her car. Right. So that way I could follow her without leaving her front porch. It was like me locking onto her energy for that. But it's still, I try to use somebody's voice. Like if I'm hearing your voice and I'm saying, okay, give me a second. And I'm describing to you what the front of your house looks like. 1 step, 2 step going up on it, and I'm at your door and I'm actually knocking on your door. And as you open your door, I'll ask permission to come in. I'm coming into your house and I'll describe to you exactly how your house is set up. Everything I go walk right past you and see everything on there, on it. You need to, you need to pick up your clothes a little bit more better. You're throwing your stuff down too much there on it, stuff too. Yeah.
So we heard, I think Todd mentioned at the beginning that you were retired or semi-retired from this stuff. Was there a reason you got out of it?
The horrible hauntings, mostly working with the paranormal and the horrible hauntings. It's tough working with horrible hauntings. It's really bad negative energy that you're working with, and helping clients who have gone through something that has just been more traumatizing than anything. I've taught, I go back and I work with the clients to teach them how to resume life like it was. I mean, this is stuff that is, you're all sitting in with your child, and your child's being ripped by their hair and pulled down the hallway, and you don't see what's doing it. This is stuff that's just, you can only do so much of it. It really is hard on you.
Are these poltergeist entities that you're talking about there? Or you mentioned something about when a person dies, all the negativity goes away. But are there cases, obviously, where you do have individuals who are trapped in this realm in some shape or form because they're not wanting to let go? Is that what causes the hauntings, or are we talking poltergeist?
When we say that we're trapped, I have a little bit of a difference of opinion about the trap bit on it. Here it is if we recall that back in our 1800s, 1700s, when there was just churches and there's preachers there. Preachers were the law. Preachers had all that they could do there. If you did something wrong, you were going to jail. You were going to hell. That was the worst thing you could do, is to tell a preacher telling you you're going to hell. So what happens is that they believe this preacher. They didn't really do anything wrong. Not something that's going to send them to hell, but they're going to believe this preacher no matter what it is. So they get to heaven. So here it is. They die. They go up. We go through transition. We all know we go through this long tunnel. At the end of this long tunnel, there's this light. They don't want to go through that light because they're afraid that they're going to go to hell. They're not going to go into heaven. They're going to go to hell, and something's tricking them. So they don't finish the transition. So what they can do is they still stay on the same levels where they left, because we have levels that we go up. We have earth level here as energy. Then we have another fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and up. And so until there's heaven, then there's heaven where our important ones hang out at. So there's different levels that we're at in our stages. It's not automatically that you go right to hell. You just don't go up any higher. You're just you're going to experience what you left.
Is this the purgatory that was a term given by, I imagine, the Catholic Church back in the 1500s? That what we're talking about here?
Well, in my eyes, what I've seen, something that I would say a hell would be, there's nothing there. There's no beautifulness. It doesn't feel peaceful. There's just nothing there. It's like a burnt land. It's nothing there. And versus heaven, where there's peace, and that's the main thing about it. Heaven's peace. Heaven's, can we use our imaginations in heaven? I suppose we can do anything we really want to. But heaven just says, you just don't bring any of that stuff with you. Don't bring illness, negativity, sadness. It's just peace. So it's what you want to make out of it. Maybe so on it. I don't think that there's a forced area that we have to go into. I just think that we create where we're going to be actually.
Well, Tuesday, that's all very interesting stuff. Thanks for joining us. Where can people find you online if they want to follow what you're doing, what you're up to next?
I'm on Facebook. I don't get to. I just don't. Pete finds me anywhere. So if you want, if you need to get a hold of me, get a hold of Pete. Pete find me anywhere and stuff on it. I work now just as I needed. It's just on it. I've never been one that would go out and charge $1 million or whatever it is on it for somebody to get information from me. If I help, I can help. That's what my goal is to make people's lives better, not to rob them of money for anything else on this stuff. So, and same with the hauntings. I can get rid of hauntings really easy on it. It's not that hard to do really, so on it. But if I'm called to do helping, I'll help. I just don't choose to do it all the time. Anyway, but that's just great. But next time I want to come back because Todd, I need to talk with you afterwards, because you do have a relative that's been coming through all day long. And I discussed with you for a few minutes about your grandfather, who looks just like you. And so I would love to be able to give you messages that he has for you.
I'd love to hear that. All right. Tuesday, why don't you, if you have time, stick around. We're gonna move on with the show. And we'd love to get you back on the show again in the future. We want to get you back on and maybe get some viewer questions that we can get answered.
That would be great. I like that. Okay, great.
Tuesday Miles, Psychic and Medium, thanks for being here tonight.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting you. Pleasure talking with you.
You too.
All right. So Ike, I guess what would be terrifying for me, and Tuesday kind of mentioned this as well, is going through life knowing, she mentioned she could turn it off, but going through life knowing there are people with you that want to talk with you 24/7, I don't like talking with people all the time, but much less every day, all day long.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, it seems like that would weigh on you psychologically. I mean, yeah, as you said, I'm not that big a fan of normal people, and to have them around all the time bothering you, yeah, I can see why that would be irritating.
Absolutely, but it's also encouraging to hear how when you do have a gift that you can work with others like police agencies and bring some resolution to families. We had someone on our show just a few weeks ago talking about the number of disappearances in national parks. We talked about this. People are disappearing at an alarming rate, and it's been happening for decades in our national parks. And we're talking thousands of people. And this one that she brought to attention, I guess this could be something you may want to consider. You're out hiking, you fall into a rock crevice. Unless Tuesday can find you, you're never found again.
Yeah, and I would think if you're a family member, if you can run into someone who can help you bring some kind of closure to just
some closure, right?
To bring it outside of the total unknown, I would think that's pretty valuable to people.
All right, so Ike, you want to move on to a little bit of news from our partners at the Full Spectrum Project. By the way, Pete Haviland's on. He's very silent during this episode. I don't know what's going on. Pete,
well, I think I've got the thing that's going to get a reaction from him. The news tidbit I've got is, again, I was thinking of you, Pete. It's a story from the AP. NASA sends squids into outer space. Yes, dozens of baby squid from Hawaii are now going into space for study. They were raised at the University of Hawaii's something marine laboratory, I can't even pronounce it, and they were blasted into space earlier on SpaceX up to the International Space Station, and they want to see how space affects squids. And so this is actually going to be a new life form in space, the squid. Pete, what do you think?
Well, first I have to say it was underwear.
Yeah, the last episode we were talking
now it's squids. Have we tested his blood alcohol level to see where he's at tonight?
Well, he just got back from Louisville, and he kicked off before the show started talking about the that he was finding in Louisville. So we all know.
Pete, bring these stories to you with an open mind, and so far,
this is where it goes.
I'm just at a loss. I don't know what to tell you about squids. I haven't really thought about or studied anything about squids.
Well,
I don't know what they would do for us other than make our calamari a little bit more light and fluffy.
Well, actually, from what I've read, apparently they want to look and see how the bioluminescence that some squids have.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes complete sense.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. I'm at a loss, guys.
Well, thanks for joining us again, Pete.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. All right, Pete, another...
All righty then.
From Pete Haviland, our producer. Okay, Ike, this next story is posted on the Daily Record out of the UK. You're familiar with the Daily Record, correct?
Well, I'm familiar with the UK.
Okay, all right. The headline reads, demands for apology to all Scots women accused of being witches and memorial built. Apparently, there's a groundswell for a justice campaign that supports and vindicates Scottish women who were and are being accused of sorcery and witchcraft. Ike, the report states that more than 2,500 alleged witches in Scotland have been executed by being tortured, burned at the stake, or strangled in the 16th and 17th centuries. Claire Mitchell, the founder of the Witches of Scotland Project, has launched a petition, and her plan is to present to the Scottish Parliament, that's right, the Parliament in Scotland, later on this month. She's calling for a national monument, which needs to be erected, and a legal pardon for all witches who perished as a result of the Witchcraft Act of 1563. Now, this organization claims witchcraft persecution continues to this day in Scotland. In fact, over the past year, they claim allegations of witchcraft was up 7% and was a factor in the abuse of more than 2,000 at-risk children. Those children were targeted, she says, by malevolent forces looking for a reason to blame someone for the struggles of the COVID crisis. There you go. So it's happening. It's on in Scotland, and they need to, make it right with those they accused of being witches.
Well, you know what? To be honest, witchcraft, that's one of the better explanations I've heard for the whole COVID thing.
Hey, I'd buy into that. Pete, you got any comment on that one?
No, you got me again, guys.
Okay, all right.
Once again, Pete, bringing it to the table.
Haviling on fire, en fuego tonight. All right. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up this show. Ike, I guess we'll see you next week as well.
Depends on whether the squid have anything to say about that.
Yeah, we'll get a report on the squid. And Pete will be joining us next week as opposed to just sitting behind the scenes as he did tonight. But he'll actually be joining us next week as well. Thanks for being here on The Road Beyond. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter as The Road Beyond Podcast. That's how you can find us. And most importantly, The Road Beyond Podcast is our YouTube channel as well. We'll be broadcasting live there as well as Facebook next week on the show. Ike, see you next time.
Tune in and get a free squid.
All right. See you next week, folks. Free squid for everyone.